Hi everybody, Ria here, and today I have with me Arthur Wu. Arthur did something incredible. With 8 weeks of studying for USACO, he was able to complete bronze, and now he's moving on to silver. So Arthur, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
I'm Arthur, and I'm going to attend McLean High School next year. Um, I'm rising ninth grade, and I really enjoyed the 8 weeks I spent practicing for USACO Bronze.
All right, cool. So when did you get started with USACO?
I believe it was March when it was about March when I found out what USACO was. And I looked into the problems and I looked into some people talking about it, and it seemed really interesting. Um, what really piqued my interest was I joined a Discord server on USACO, and I met a lot of cool people there, and I thought that this was something that I'd probably like to do. So I looked into how I could improve.
So when you heard about it in March, I'm guessing then you took the US Open?
No, I didn't. I didn't take the U.S. Open. Um, I, I thought about taking it, but I knew that I didn't really know enough to do okay on it. So I just decided to practice using easier problems.
And how did you practice with the previous year's problems?
Um, I just before we did the tutoring.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I just found some random problems that were very recent, and then I just tried to solve them. And then if I wasn't able to solve them, I looked at the editorial.
Okay. I think you also mentioned that you would ask on the Discord too if you weren't able to solve
Uh,
them.
yeah, I would ask on the Discord. They said some they helped me a bit, but it wasn't enough to completely solve the problem or understand everything that it had to offer.
I see. And so how long were you studying like this for? And how many hours a week?
I believe I was studying for a couple hours a week, probably about 30 minutes a day. I just set aside some time to do USACO for a bit.
So 3 to 4 hours a week in total?
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right. And so from there, um, I guess why did you reach out to me? What were you sort of frustrated with?
So I was frustrated with that. I just I didn't so I did a lot of problems, and I looked at I couldn't actually complete a lot of them, and I got stuck a vast majority of the time. And I thought this was like a task I could never accomplish, so I knew I probably would benefit from getting some help. So looked at some possible I looked at some possible USAGO trainings, and then I saw this one, and I thought this would be the best fit for me.
And where did you find me from?
Um, just I did a quick Google search, I believe.
That makes sense. Um, and so then you find me, and why did you end up signing up with me?
I looked at the times that you said could be completed. I thought they were very fast. So I thought that if I could do this program, then I could improve extremely quickly. And I do believe in the end I improved extremely quickly through the duration of the 8 weeks. And so and during and when and then when we first and then we first met to discuss the training program, I was very impressed by the content that it would provide. So that was a good choice.
That's great. So I remember when we started working together at first, you brought with me like a long list of problems that you were unable to solve. So we
Yeah.
started working on one of those. And do you remember what happened with that problem?
Yeah, I believe it was triangles. So then we worked on that problem, and then um, I always thought that I should probably find I should probably find a complex solution. But you told me that that thinking very complexly wasn't really a requirement. It was actually much better to think clearly and simply. So that actually improved a lot with like my thought processes of thinking clearly and simply instead of having to take all these detours to make a complex solution.
I believe your solution was correct for that problem. And
Yeah,
I think you asked some people in the Discord server too, and they told you your solution was right. And that
yeah,
was perfectly true, but it was way too complicated, and your code would need to be way too long for a bronze problem. So
Yeah,
we simplified it down to a brute force. And yeah, I think at that time we even determined it was like too hard for then, and we came back to it like several weeks later, and you
yeah,
got it several weeks later, which is,
yeah,
I guess, it's a great marker of improvement when you get a problem a few weeks later. So in terms of working on problems, you definitely upped it a lot from 4 hours a week. I believe it was like 10 to 15 hours a week.
yeah, I believe
So,
so.
so what caused that increase from 4 to 10 to 15 hours?
Well, I think it's just that you assigned a lot of problems for me, and it wasn't too much for me to, for me to not have other things to, not have time for other things to do, but it wasn't so little that I wouldn't be constantly engaged and focused. So, so I think I mainly did more because the program required more time. It wasn't too much time that it was everything I had to do. I had a lot of other commitments too, but it wasn't too little time that I lost my focus and I didn't improve very quickly.
Did having like a schedule of do this today, do this tomorrow, do this the next day help out?
Yeah, that definitely helped out. Before I was really unscheduled in my programming, and I found myself found myself improving at a very slow pace. So after setting a schedule, that helped me a lot improve at a faster pace.
And I want to go back to when you were talking a little bit earlier about thinking about problems and thinking more clearly about them. Can you tell me a little more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, you taught me to think simply, and you taught me to think simply and always think clearly. So if I came across a solution where I thought in my head that, oh, this sounds very good, I need to really keep that rational thought that, oh, this isn't going to work because it's going to take way too long to implement. And I found out that simpler is actually a lot of times better in a lot of scenarios. So whenever, even in problems outside of programming, I always apply that methodology to make my problem simpler, and it actually helps on a lot of aspects, not just programming.
I think we also reduced your code size from like 1 to 200 lines to like 40.
Yeah, I believe so. Some problems, I believe there would still be it'd still be long, but some problems the code was remarkably short that I didn't think I could achieve in 8 weeks.
And also, when it comes to implementation length, that also creates bugs, and bugs are just annoying in general. So, I
Yeah,
guess tell me a little bit more about that. What was your experience with bugs, and how did you improve with that?
yeah. So before I really hated bugs. I didn't know how to properly address them, so I just stuck on hours on end just looking at the bug, and sometimes I was lucky and found a Eureka moment and just fixed the bug, but most of the times I ended up just deleting the project because I could never fix that one annoying bug. But you taught me some ways to debug properly, and now most of the bugs actually I can actually fix after if I give them enough time and apply the processes you taught me. And this was something I wasn't really able to do before. And you also taught me that when the code is shorter and less complex, usually less bugs appear. So that really motivated me also to make my code shorter and more concise.
You were saying you would delete your whole entire code and redo it because you have a bug?
Yeah, well, yeah, first I would get help on Stack Overflow, but the community isn't exactly very open to newcomers. So if I couldn't get help on Stack Overflow, I would just, delete my code or ask my friends if they couldn't solve it, then I would just delete my code for, a wide array of things, projects and USACO problems. I would just, if I couldn't fix it, I just really didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that sounds pretty unideal. So what
Yeah.
are some of the debugging strategies that you use now?
um when I code I always want to comment out half the I always want to comment out half the code first to determine where the code is. Is it in the first block or is it in the second block? And then I would further simplify that, and then I'd cut out half of the code where the bug is potentially located each time I apply that strategy. So eventually I'll be able to find my bugs relatively quickly. And I think also after looking at code and programming through this program, I my eye became a lot sharper. So usually I would catch bugs. Just I would have the eureka moments I mentioned earlier a lot more often than I did in the past.
Yeah, the binary searching on the location of the bug is a pretty nice trick in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like problem solving skills and how you approach problems, when you see a problem, how do you approach them now? Or how did you used to approach them and how do you approach them now?
So I believe in the past I approached my problems very fluidly. I just look at the problem and try to find a eureka moment where I uh, find this one advancement. And what was really bad about that strategy was I never actually recorded anything from the eureka moments. I just stared hours on end at a problem, and sometimes I would even forget the eurekas I had, putting me even behind, instead of just stopping me at this one roadblock. And that was actually really bad strategy because for the large majority of problems, I couldn't work that way. I couldn't just rely on finding a eureka to get me through. But now I approach my problems a lot more structurally. I have you introduced me to a clear list of things I should do for each problem, and then I was able to identify common trends within each problem, which could be used to solve each problem. And I also used paper and pencil a lot more to record my eurekas when I did have them, or to record my progress when I made it by following the steps you outlined for me. So I think this is applied to much more than just competitive programming. I think for every problem I have, now I use this more structured way of thinking, and it's really helped me become a better problem solver.
When you write down your eureka moments, do you ever refer back to them later?
Um, uh, yeah, I believe so. So when I find a eureka moment, so if I find a when I find a eureka moment, it usually directly progresses, how I solve a problem. So so usually I would refer to it directly after I found that eureka moment, but sometimes, yeah, I would just write it down. Then I would kind of get the puzzle, and then I would kind of fit more pieces of the puzzle, and then I could use that eureka moment to fit into the whole puzzle later.
Ah, I see. So you're saying the eureka moment is like one observation that you got, and then you
Yeah,
keep adding other observations onto it to get the full
yeah, to
solution.
get the full picture.
That makes sense. And so, in terms of you were mentioning, like you noticed common trends between different problems. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah. So sometimes when I down a problem, and I had a so first usually I wrote down the first test case, and you told me to always work out the first test case by hand. And usually that was enough to find what the process was, to find what the pattern kind of was to get from point A to point B, at least for bronze problems, which most of the times they're pretty straightforward. But sometimes on the trickier ones, I would have to create multiple test cases, and then through each test case, I would get more. Through each test case, I would find some common practices that would fit in to the total solution, and then that was something you taught me, so I was able to fit in. I was able to fit in multiple evidences from multiple test cases, and then put that in my solution.
Ah, I see. So your eureka moment was kind of coming from the strategies you were using to get your eureka moment.
Yeah.
So you were in control of your eureka moments a little bit more then.
Uh, yeah, I believe so. But then again, sometimes my mind wasn't as sharp with programming as it is now, so I wasn't really able to find many of those eureka moments in the past either.
And it's great that you got eureka moments and you got majority of problems, but people still get stuck. So what would you do whenever you got stuck on a problem?
I would most of the times I would just ask the Facebook group, and that was very helpful. It is certainly a lot better than Stack Overflow, and you really explained to me the methodology of how I should solve the problem, and I found each time I got a question answered, I actually improved a lot instead of other forums where I just kind of just where I kind of just copied the solution, not even think about it, just copied the solution for one problem for one problem, and then I didn't really learn anything after that. But the Facebook group helped me a lot. And then
That's interesting there. So you used to just copy paste the code without understanding it. So
no, I wouldn't copy paste the code, but I kind of just uh, I couldn't really when I couldn't really wrap my head around when I couldn't really wrap my head around, I just typed I just kind of typed the code, kind of in my own words, but it's not really in my own words, and I don't think I really improved that much through that strategy either of just looking through the code and trying to put it in my own writing style.
so what caused the difference then? Why would you now with the answers on the Facebook group understand the problem and then code it by yourself from there?
So I think it's because the Facebook group, your responses were a lot more rooted in the methodology of how to solve the problem, while others' responses were a lot more rooted in the code. So I'd actually have the opportunity to code it myself without referencing any of the um, code, which helped me improve as a programmer, a programmer who writes code. And that was one thing that I didn't really get when I just copied or paraphrased in my own words someone else's code.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Um, and so yeah, that all sounds great. Those are all great things, and great job doing 8 weeks USACO Bronze. Are there any other things you would like to share with the user who maybe they're like in bronze, they're kind of struggling? What advice would you give them to do well in bronze and to move up to silver?
I would just say that it's never impossible because I thought it was impossible at one point. It was such a daunting task. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. And I actually found out, I actually found out with your help, I was actually, and this is now actually pretty solvable for me. And I could actually do a lot of these problems. So, um, your program really made the impossible seem totally possible after 8 weeks, which is something I thought I would never accomplish.
I mean, that's great to hear. That's kind of the goal here. So, yeah, what are your next steps? I know you're working on silver now. What are your goals for USACO?
Yeah, so my goal is to make USACO Gold by the end of the year. I think I'm really progressing towards that goal. And right now I'm enrolled in a 15-week silver program with you. And I hope I will improve a 12-week silver program. So I think I will improve a lot through that program as well uh, making USACO Gold. And I also really wanted to become I also really wanted to become, a better uh, computer scientist, I would say. I don't know if it's the correct term to call it. So I actually enrolled in in a Coursera course to teach me a lot of these things, and that really complemented, my training. Uh, that really complemented my training well because they discuss in the Coursera program. They also discussed a lot of Big O notation, but they didn't really delve deep into applying it. But here, there's a lot more emphasis on application, which I really like.
Are you taking a Coursera course on machine learning
Um,
also?
I believe my friend is doing that. I'm not doing that right now, but I'd certainly be interested in doing that in the future. But yeah, on the machine learning course, I know a lot of friends who do it, but I'm doing the data structure and algorithms course right now, which I think complements the material better, in my opinion.
All right. Well, that is some great information. Thank you for taking your time out to do this.
Thank
Do
you.
you have any last words or comments before we
Um,
go?
uh, Yeah, I'd just like to say that this program has really helped me improve, programmer and just a general problem solver. So I'd recommend it to anybody, even if they're not necessarily have an interest to become just improve at programming. It really helps me improve in a lot of other aspects of life as well, such as in solving any problem I may come across.
Okay, that is really, really great to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Arthur.
Bye.